Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dude Reviews. Today we're finally finishing up the Jak and Daxter marathon. Finally! If you're just tuning in for the first time, I've already done videos on the other 4 games in the series, and I may have said things that upset some people, specifically in talking about Jak 3, but I still think that each game is good. It probably doesn't seem that way, but I love me some platformers. You can give me the bottom of the barrel of this genre and I will still find some enjoyment out of it. It was never my intention to be a dick, that's just the way I feel. So the Jak and Daxter collection still comes recommended, for sure. And hell, for the price that Jak X goes for, I don't think you'll lose too much sleep if you give this one a shot too. I did say that you should leave that one in the pit stop, but quite frankly, I mainly wanted to use a car pun. I know, I'm dumb. But these 4 games were the only ones done by Naughty Dog. Once the PS3 came along, the company started working on the Uncharted series and eventually The Last of Us, leaving Jak and Daxter basically dead in the water. It's unfortunate deja vu back to the Crash Bandicoot days, but it turns out they were working on another game, before handing it off to another company, High Impact Games, a developer comprised of former members of both Insomniac Games and Naughty Dog. And at this point, they've already worked on the Ratchet & Clank series with Size Matters and Secret Agent Clank. And man, this box, it's the relic of a forgotten era. And that leads us to Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier. Well, I mean, it's probably fine, right? The game begins with Jak and Daxter flying through the middle of a storm with this new blue-haired girl. Come again? Okay, I am being told that that is apparently Kira, despite the fact that it does not look like her in the slightest. What the fuck? They're on a mission to discover a reasoning behind an eco shortage in the world, soon being ambushed by a group of sky pirates. And in the middle of the scuffle that takes place on top of a moving plane, which I won't question on behalf of my sanity, they lose control and crash near this area called the Brink, where the precursors, who were apparently responsible for building the world, and I am not making this next part up, decided to just stop making world. That is really what the Brink is. That is literally the dumbest reasoning for a place's existence I have ever heard in my entire life, and I'm someone who believes that a world of yarn feels like pants. They eventually get to a city called Europa, where Jak receives this thing called an Eco Seeker and hopes to study and power it.
I'm Kira, and this is Jak.
This leads to an adventure with like 2 or 3 other boring characters, all on a quest to fix the eco problem. And it's pretty okay. The characters are okay. Daxter keeps things kinda lighthearted at times, but Kira, Eventually, Jak and the Sky Pirates end up working together to work towards a greater evil. But that's only because Kira ends up getting some weird feelings for the pirate leader Phoenix and vice versa. Nah, Kira, you know what? I understand completely. Jak is your childhood friend who saved the day multiple times with his superpowers, but Phoenix, I mean, he is just super dreamy, and he shares his name with only the acest of attorneys. Believe me, I would do the same exact thing. Screw you, Kira! The game has 3 distinct gameplay styles. First up is the traditional Jak and Daxter running and gunning gameplay. There's the occasional platforming, but it's mostly combat with a lot of gunplay. So if you're familiar with the series, you kinda know what to expect, although it is a lot weaker. There's no dark or light Jak powers, jumping is surprisingly stiff, guns don't have upgrades like they did in Jak 3, locations are very barren, and there's no long jump, which is such an odd omission because it's not like High Impact doesn't know how to program that. But on the upside, there are new eco powers given to you very frequently, like a rocket high jump, the ability to summon crystal platforms, and even turn into a legitimate super monkey ball for a shield. You can even collect Dark Eco and exchange it for a ton of upgrades to Jak's abilities. But the thing is, you don't play in this style enough for any of these upgrades to leave much of an impact. Many of the upgrades are for your physical attacks, but most of your combat is with your guns, which have no lock-on of any sort, not even an auto-lock like the previous games, making combat entirely kind of annoying. But overall, it's definitely flawed, but it's okay. If the game were more of this, it would be a perfectly fine portable Jak game. However, early on in the game, Daxter, being unnaturally clumsy, slips and falls into an opening in the floor, soon followed by a ton of Dark Eco. What is this? What is this? Daxter turned into a little fuzzball in the first place thanks to the Dark Eco, but somehow more Dark Eco turns him into this monstrosity? And you really expect me to believe this as some sort of dark and badass version of Daxter, but the loading screen to his levels are a fucking slide? And God, playing as Jak Daxter is just so boring. It's a somewhat standard top-down style where you have a few powerful moves with uninteresting combat, uninteresting puzzles, and they drag on forever. You know, for as ridiculously stupid as the Werehog was in Sonic Unleashed, the gameplay was actually kinda competent, and I can't even believe I'm making this comparison. They don't even explain this in the story. Jak only notices the transformation during the last section with him, and he's just like, Dax, you're sure looking pretty mean. You should calm down.
Great! Now I've got 2 monsters to worry about.
And you're probably thinking to yourself right now that that is easily the worst the game has to offer. No. No, it isn't. Very frequently, you find yourself behind the wheel of a plane. You see, since this game was built on a portable, it simply couldn't handle the open world nature of the other Jak games. And yes, Grand Theft Auto and Daxter handled it just fine, but humor me on this. So instead, there are a handful of really boring locales that you travel to, each with only one area of interest, making any sense of exploration feel entirely unnecessary. Like here's me traveling from one of the levels back to the pirate ship. Thrilling. And naturally, whenever there's plane gameplay, dogfighting soon follows. And it's not good. It's either just flying around aimlessly, or a whole lot of random shooting with no skill involved, and just sort of hoping that you don't get blown up, because barrel rolling does not help you in the slightest. And between that, hearing Daxter repeat his lines almost every 30 seconds about not being able to make it, and encountering not only the game freezing multiple times at the end of missions, which did wonders for my blood pressure, but glitches too. Oh, yep, okay, I am now in a rock. Good. You know what? This is my secret strategy, because they will never think to look for me in here. Alright, I guess it's time to start talking about how the game ends, but this is seriously only going to take about 30 seconds or so spoiler warning. It turns out the guy that gave you the Eco Seeker in the first 30 minutes of the game, Skyheed, he's the bad guy. You only see this random guy a handful of times, so it's not really much of a twist. Soon after, you fight his new dark form in a battle that for some reason has no music, and that could probably be another glitch, wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. You chase him a bit in your plane, you do some dogfighting, Phoenix sacrifices himself because who gives a shit? And yeah, that sort of ends Jak and Daxter The Lost Frontier. There is a bit of a happy ending where Jak and Kira kiss, but quite frankly, that is not Jak and that is not Kira, so now it's just some random ugly couple kissing. Ew. Just what a terrible way for the Jak and Daxter series to go out on. It's not just the fact that this is just a below-average platformer, it's that high-impact games didn't do any of the homework on what the series is about. Jak, Daxter, and Kira are the only returning characters, none of them really act like themselves, Kira doesn't even look like herself. The feeling of exploring this grand world is entirely gone. The new eco powers really don't add that much to the game, and there's this! And sure, the same developers experimented a bit with the Ratchet games as well, but that series already does that with each and every game, so it made sense. Apparently, some of you guys are also expecting me to destroy this game graphically too, but I'm not gonna. This is a PSP game ported to the PS2. Of course things are gonna look simple. However, for the most part, whatever you're looking at is completely uninteresting, so the graphics aren't the issue. The style is, and it is very, very poor. Although, yeah, the cutscenes look like garbage. Oh, and you know that because of Lost Frontier, high-impact games lost some reputation, because after this, they worked on such classics as Disney Princess My Fairy Tale Adventure and DreamWorks Superstar Carts. That's how you know that it's a success. It has a Z instead of an S. Oh wait, that actually kinda rhymes. Didn't even realize that, and that's in the script. And that's that. The Jak and Daxter marathon is finally done. Now, I would like to say that the series has a potential future going for it, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. Both the Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper franchises are still alive and well, but the Jak and Daxter one, not so much. Their legacy is really only in the HD collection of 3 quality platformers, the fact that Naughty Dog would then go on to make Uncharted, and Heroes on the Move, which I still have trouble acknowledging its existence. And I know there is still Daxter on PSP, which didn't get a console port, for whatever reason. I do remember this game being good, but until I get some way to record the gameplay, this one is just gonna have to wait. And with all that being said, it's time to wrap things up. The only thing is, I really don't have a clever way to end the video, so... bye. Das bad. Oh, a running joke! That's perfect, I'll work with that. Hey everyone, I want to thank you all for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to toss me a like and also subscribe to keep up to date with new videos. I hear that doing one of those things makes you kinda cool, but doing both of those things, you're gonna be the coolest person in your school. Trust me on that. You can follow me on your favorite social network by clicking down below, and I would also like to take this time to give a huge thanks to my top Patreon supporters, Alex Downs, Kodiak Polizar, and Gustavo Hernandez. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for your support. Now that Jak and Daxter is finally out of the way, it's time to move on to bigger and greater ideas, so stay tuned. I want to thank all you guys for watching, and I will catch y'all next time. Bye-bye.